Blood tastes like copper and regret. Caleb learned that at 23, the night he put a bullet through a 16-year-old boy's chest. Clean shot. Center mass. The kid had stolen a horse. Just a goddamn horse. And when he reached for something in his coat, Caleb's finger squeezed before his brain could catch up. It wasn't a gun. It was a photograph of the boy's mother. 3 weeks later, Caleb rode out alone into the Sonoran Desert, badge still pinned to his chest, but feeling heavier than iron. He wasn't patrolling. He was running. From the eyes of his fellow deputies, from the whiskey that stopped working, from the sound of that boy's last breath rattling in his dreams. He didn't expect to find salvation bleeding out beside a dead horse under a vulture-circled sky. But sometimes, redemption comes wrapped in gunpowder and sin. Stay with me. This is a story about a young lawman who had to choose between justice and mercy and discovered that sometimes the law protects nothing but the rich man's gold. The woman was still breathing when Caleb found her, though barely. She lay in the shadow of her dead horse, shoulder dark with blood that had dried to black in the desert sun. Her leather coat was torn, her hat lost somewhere in whatever hell she'd ridden through. But even half dead, there was something about her that made Caleb's hand hover over his holster. A predator's stillness, a widow spider waiting in the web. Her eyes opened when his shadow crossed her face. Dark eyes, tired eyes, the kind that had seen men bleed and felt nothing. She tried to reach for her gun. Her hand made it halfway, before falling limp. "Easy," Caleb said, kneeling. "I'm not here to hurt you." Her laugh was dry as bone. "Then you're the first." Up close, he could see her face properly. Around 40, beautiful in the way a storm is beautiful, all hard edges and dangerous curves. There was a scar along her jawline, faint but deliberate. A man's work. Caleb pulled his canteen, pressed it to her lips. She drank like a woman who'd forgotten water existed. "Who did this to you?" "Does it matter?" Her voice was smoke and whiskey. "You gonna save me or just watch me die pretty?" Something in her tone, not pleading, not afraid, just tired, made him reach for his medical kit. As he cut away her shirt to expose the wound, she spoke again. "You're too young for me, boy." Caleb's hands paused. "I'm old enough to know what I'm doing." She smiled, thin and sad. "That's what they all think." The bullet had gone clean through, but the wound was infected. Caleb worked in silence, cleaning and bandaging, while she watched him with those dark, unreadable eyes. Her skin was warm beneath his fingers, smooth except for the scattered scars, a map of violence written on flesh. "What's your name?" he asked. "Does that matter either?" "Humor me." She was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Catherine, but most folks call me the Widow Marlowe." Caleb's blood went cold. He knew that name. Every lawman west of the Mississippi knew that name. Catherine Marlowe, wife of Jesse Marlowe, the gunfighter who terrorized the territories until a marshal put him down in a dusty street 2 years back. After Jesse died, his widow did something no one expected. She took control of his gang and became more dangerous than her husband ever was. 3 train robberies, 2 bank heists, and a $2,000 bounty on her head. Caleb's hand moved toward his gun. "Go ahead, boy." Catherine's voice was soft, almost gentle. "Do your job. I'm tired of running anyway." But she didn't look scared. She looked relieved, like dying was just another chore to check off a long, bloody list. And that resignation, that bone-deep exhaustion, made Caleb's hand stop. "Border's 3 days north," he heard himself say. "I'll get you that far. After that, you're on your own." Catherine stared at him. For the first time, something like surprise flickered across her face. Why? Caleb didn't answer. Because he didn't know. Or maybe because he knew exactly why, and couldn't say it out loud. That he saw in her eyes the same exhaustion he felt in his own bones. That they were both running from ghosts. That night, when fever made her delirious, she called him Jesse. When she came to and realized her mistake, she laughed, sharp and bitter. Sorry, you remind me of someone foolish. The cabin was half collapsed and long abandoned, but it had walls and a roof, and that was enough. Caleb built a fire while Catherine sat against the far wall, watching him with those predator's eyes. You should tie me up, she said. Should I? I'm a wanted woman. What if I slit your throat in the night? Caleb met her gaze. Will you? A pause. Then, no. Then I won't tie you up. The firelight painted her face in gold and shadow. When Caleb moved to check her bandages, she didn't flinch, just watched him with an intensity that made his hands unsteady. You ever killed a man, boy? His jaw tightened. Yes. How old were you? 23. How old was he? Caleb's hands stilled on her bandage. 16. Catherine was quiet for a moment, then softer. What did he do? Stole a horse. Reached for something. I thought... His voice cracked. I thought it was a gun. Was it? No. Her hand moved to his, surprising them both. Her fingers were calloused, warm. Then maybe you understand, she said quietly, why I'm tired of pretending the law protects anyone but the men with money. That night they shared a single blanket. The desert cold crept in through the broken walls, and Caleb woke to find Catherine shivering, her wound making her feverish again. Without thinking, he pulled her against him, sharing his warmth. She was tense at first, like a wild animal unused to gentleness. Then, slowly, she relaxed. Don't get attached, boy, she whispered into the darkness. I'm already dead. Caleb said nothing, just held her tighter. The second day, they rode slow, avoiding main roads. Catherine sat behind Caleb on his horse, her arms around his waist, her breath warm against his neck. It felt dangerously like intimacy. Jesse was everything the stories said, she told him as they rode. Charming. Dangerous. He could shoot the buttons off a man's coat from 50 yards and make you laugh while doing it. Her voice went distant. But he loved me like a man loves a favorite gun. Something to own, to show off, to use. Why'd you stay? Because I loved him, and because I was young and stupid and thought love was supposed to hurt. She was quiet for a moment. After he died, his men figured the gang would fall apart. They didn't expect me to stand up and take charge. Why did you? Her arms tightened around him. Because I was tired of being Jesse Marlowe's widow. I wanted to be Catherine, just Catherine, even if it meant becoming a monster. That evening they stopped by a creek. Caleb went to fill their canteens, and when he came back, he saw Catherine checking something in her saddlebag, something that clinked metallically. She caught him looking and quickly closed the bag. Neither of them spoke about it. That night, at a border town saloon, they rented a room. Just one. Catherine was too weak to sleep rough again. While she washed behind a cloth partition, Caleb sat with his back turned, listening to the sound of water, the whisper of fabric against skin. His imagination filled in what he couldn't see, the curve of her back, the way water would trail down her spine, the scars that marked her like a history book written in violence. When she emerged, dressed in a clean shirt, with her dark hair loose around her shoulders, she looked younger, almost vulnerable. She sat on the bed, patted the space beside her. Drink with me, boy. They passed a whiskey bottle back and forth, and in the amber glow of lamplight, Catherine asked the question Caleb had been dreading. "Why'd you help me?" He took a long drink before answering. "I killed a kid, 16 years old. His name was Tommy Garrett. He stole a horse because his mother was sick and needed a doctor, and I put a bullet in him because I was scared and stupid and following orders." His voice was raw. "I don't know if I'm a lawman anymore, or just someone who does what he's told." Catherine's hand found his, her touch gentle. "Then maybe you're just a man. That's enough." They sat close, shoulders touching, the space between them charged with something more dangerous than gunpowder. Catherine turned to look at him, and her face was so close he could count her eyelashes. "You should go," she whispered. "Before you do something you'll regret." "What if I don't regret it?" She kissed him then, or he kissed her. It didn't matter. What mattered was the taste of whiskey and desperation, the way her hand curled into his shirt, the soft sound she made when he pulled her closer. But then she stopped, pulled back. Her eyes were bright, almost fearful. "Not yet," she breathed. "Not like this. You deserve better than a woman covered in blood money." Before Caleb could respond, she stood and left the room. He heard her footsteps on the stairs, heading down to the saloon below. He didn't follow, just sat on that bed, tasting her on his lips, knowing he was already lost. Morning came with gunfire. 3 bounty hunters burst into the saloon, rough men with dead eyes and quick hands. Someone had recognized Catherine, sent word. Caleb was in the stable when he heard the shots. He ran toward the saloon, heart in his throat, and kicked open the door to find Catherine behind an overturned table, gun smoking. 1 hunter was dead. The other 2 were taking cover, reloading. Catherine's eyes met Caleb's across the room. "Get out!" Instead, he drew his gun and fired. The nearest hunter went down with a hole in his chest. The 3rd ran, and Catherine put a bullet in his back before he made it 3 steps. The silence afterward was deafening. Catherine stood slowly, her gun still raised, her face cold and empty. This wasn't self-defense. This was execution. Clean, efficient, brutal. Caleb stared at her, really seeing her for the first time. Not a tired woman running from her past, but a killer who wore death like a second skin. "We need to go," she said flatly. They rode hard, leaving the bodies behind. An hour out, Catherine's saddlebag came loose, spilling its contents onto the desert sand. Gold bars, small, stamped with Union Pacific Railroad. Caleb pulled his horse up short. "You've been carrying stolen gold this whole time?" Catherine dismounted, began gathering the bars. "Yes." "Why?" She looked at him, and for the first time he saw real fear in her eyes, not of him, but of something else. "Jesse died owing $5,000 to a cartel boss in Mexico. If I don't pay, they'll kill what's left of my gang. Men who were loyal to Jesse, who've been loyal to me." "So you rob trains?" "I do what I have to." Her voice cracked. "You think I wanted this? Jesse left me with nothing but his name and his debts. This gold is my way out. Pay the debt, get my people safe, then disappear." Caleb was quiet, processing. Then, "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you're a lawman." Tears shone in her eyes now. "And because you touched me like I was a person, not a prize. For the first time in 10 years, someone looked at me and saw me. Not Jessie Marlowe's widow, not the woman with the bounty. Just Catherine." Something broke open in Caleb's chest. He stepped close, took her face in his hands. "I see you," he said quietly. "All of you. And I'm not letting you do this alone. You're too young to throw your life away for someone like me." His smile was sad. Maybe I'm tired of following laws that only protect rich men's gold. The cabin near the border was their last sanctuary. Tomorrow, Catherine would cross into Mexico. Tonight was all they had. She stood by the fire, slowly unbuckling her gun belt, letting it drop. Then her coat, her shirt, each piece falling away like armor, until she stood in just her underthings, scars and all. Caleb couldn't look away. "Stay with me," she whispered, "just tonight." He crossed the room in 3 steps. Their first kiss was hungry, desperate, all the want and fear and loneliness of the past days exploding between them. His hands tangled in her hair, her nails dug into his shoulders, and when they fell onto the bedroll, it was with the urgency of people who knew tomorrow would rip them apart. But then something shifted. Catherine's hands gentled on his face. Her kiss slowed, deepened. When Caleb looked into her eyes, he saw tears. "Say my name," she breathed. "Catherine." She gasped like he'd touched her soul. They made love slowly after that, learning each other's bodies like sacred texts. Caleb kissed every scar, whispered against her skin that she was beautiful, that she was good, that she deserved softness. And Catherine cried, because no one had ever loved her like this. Gently, reverently, like she was something precious instead of something to possess. When he moved inside, her hands clutched his back, her voice breaking his name. And when she came, it was with a sob that held 10 years of loneliness. Afterward, they lay tangled together by the dying fire, skin against skin, hearts beating in sync. "What happens tomorrow?" she asked. "You cross the border. I go back. And then?" His voice was thick. "I remember this. I remember you." She kissed his forehead, gentle as a prayer. "Too young, but maybe the best man I've ever known." Dawn came too soon. Catherine was already dressed when Caleb woke, her saddlebag packed, her gun belt on. She looked like the outlaw again, hard, untouchable, but her eyes were soft when they met his. On the cabin table, she'd left a small leather pouch. Caleb opened it, half the gold bars, and a note in scratched handwriting. "For the boy's family. You saved me in more ways than one." See. Caleb's vision blurred. She was at the door now, hand on the frame, not looking back. "Don't follow me," she said quietly. "Don't come looking. Just live. Will I see you again?" Silence. Then she turned, and her smile was tired but genuine. "You're too young for me, boy. But maybe in another life." She mounted her horse, rode toward the golden horizon of Mexico. Caleb watched until she was nothing but a speck against the sun, then nothing at all. That afternoon, he rode to the Garrett farm. Mrs. Garrett answered the door, her face lined with grief. Caleb said nothing, just handed her the pouch of gold and walked away before she could ask questions. He didn't go back to his deputy's badge. Instead, he rode west, toward territories without law or borders, toward a horizon that held no answers but at least offered the freedom to look. And sometimes, when the desert wind blew just right, he'd swear he could hear her laugh. That's the story of how a young lawman learned that justice and mercy aren't always the same thing, and how a tired outlaw taught him that redemption sometimes comes wearing someone else's sins. If this story moved you, leave a like, share it with someone who believes in second chances, and tell me in the comments, where are you listening from? I want to know where stories like this find a home. And if you need more tales of desperate love and dangerous choices, subscribe, because in the West, every sunset brings a new sinner seeking salvation. Until next time, ride safe.